Welcome back to Crypto Unlocked. I'm your host, Crypto Daryl, and Bitcoin, it's a world that almost everyone has heard of by now, but very few people truly understand. Some see it as the future of money, others see it as a risky gamble, and some even see it as a passing fad that somehow refuses to fade away. But the truth is, Bitcoin has grown far beyond what its anonymous creator likely imagined when it was first released in 2009. Today, it is more than just digital money. It's the foundation of the entire cryptocurrency industry, the spark that ignited a multi-trillion-dollar revolution and the asset that continues to shape how the world thinks about money, finance, and even the freedom of finance. To understand why Bitcoin is so important, you need to know what it actually is. Bitcoin is a digital money, but not like the balance you see in your online banking app. That money in the bank account still belongs to the system controlled by banks and governments. Bitcoin is different. It exists only on the internet, recorded and secured by something called the blockchain. Think of the blockchain as a massive public record book that is always online, where every single transaction is written and visible to everyone. No one person or organization controls it. Instead, it's maintained by thousands of computers spread across the globe, all working together to verify and record transactions. This is what people mean when they say Bitcoin is decentralized. There is no bank to call, no government printing more of it, no CEO making the rules. The network itself enforces the rules through code and mathematics. And the result is the currency that doesn't need permission from any third party to use. If you want to send Bitcoin to someone, you can just do it directly without a middleman, without needing approval from anyone, and that transaction is final once it's confirmed on the blockchain. Bitcoin was born in 2009 when someone using the name of Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper and the first version of its software. To this day, nobody actually knows exactly who Satoshi was. And perhaps that mystery is part of the beauty of Bitcoin. It was never meant to be controlled by one single person. The idea was to create money for people and money that could move freely over the internet. Money that could not just be stopped or censored. Satoshi designed Bitcoin to be scarce like gold. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist, and this number can never be changed. Right now, around 19 million have already been mined, leaving only a few million more that will ever be created over the coming decades. This scarcity is the heart of Bitcoin's value. Unlike dollars and euros, which governments can print endlessly, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. That means it's resistant to inflation, which is why so many people call it the digital gold. Just like gold has been valued for thousands of years because it is scarce and durable, Bitcoin is valued today because it's scarce and in a digital age. Over time, Bitcoin grew from a tiny experiment into a global finance force. In the early days, only a handful of developers and cryptography enthusiasts cared about it then. Back then, people were trading thousands of Bitcoins for just a few dollars. And in one famous man's story, a man paid 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas. Today, that same amount of Bitcoin would be worth billions of dollars. Slowly but surely, more people discovered Bitcoin and its price began to rise. Each bull run brought new attention, new investors, and new skeptics. The media couldn't resist covering Bitcoin's meteoric rise and devastating crashes. But through every cycle of hype and doubt, Bitcoin kept coming back stronger and stronger. That resilience is part of what makes it so powerful. It has survived over decades of attacks, government bans, skepticism from economists, and the launch of thousands of competing coins. Yet it still stands tall as the #1 cryptocurrency. Bitcoin isn't just important because of its price, it's important because it's opened the door to everything else in crypto. Before Bitcoin, no one had solved the problem of creating trust in a digital money system without relying on a central authority. Satoshi cracked that code, and once Bitcoin proved it could work, developers around the world were inspired to build on the idea. That's how altcoins were even born. Projects like Litecoin, Namecoin, and eventually Ethereum all came after Bitcoin. Ethereum in particular took the idea of blockchain technology and expanded it to allow smart contracts, which created the foundation for decentralized finance, NFTs, and thousands of other applications. In other words, Bitcoin wasn't just the first cryptocurrency, it was the blueprint for the entire digital asset industry. Even today, Bitcoin movements set the tone for the entire market. When Bitcoin goes up, altcoins often follow. When Bitcoin crashes, the rest of the market often follows. That's why traders talk about Bitcoin dominance, which is the percentage of the total crypto market that belongs to Bitcoin. For most of crypto's history, Bitcoin has held a massive share of the total market value, often hovering around half or the entire space. Bitcoin is the benchmark, the leader, and the coin that gives the whole entire industry credibility. Its influence also extends far beyond cryptocurrencies. Traditional finance has had its reckon with Bitcoin as it grew. In 2017, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange launched their first regulated Bitcoin futures, giving Wall Street a way to trade it. In 2021, Coinbase went public on the NASDAQ, showing that a cryptocurrency company could reach mainstream markets. And in 2024, the United States finally approved Bitcoin ETFs, allowing people to invest in Bitcoin through traditional brokerage accounts. These steps signaled that Bitcoin was no longer just an outsider's toy, it had entered the financial system in a real way. Meanwhile, countries like El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, proving that entire nations could see value in using it alongside their national currency. Every milestone like this pushes Bitcoin further into legitimacy, and with legitimacy comes more adoption, more investors, and more growth. But beyond the markets, beyond the headlines, Bitcoin matters because of what it represents. For some, it is a path for financial freedom. In countries where the local currency is unstable or where banks are untrustworthy, Bitcoin offers people a way to save and move money without fear of corruption or inflation wiping out their entire savings account. For others, it's about independence. No governments or banks can stop a Bitcoin transaction. They can't freeze your accounts or tell you how much you are allowed to send. Bitcoin gives people the power to truly own their money. That's a radical idea in a world where everything needs a middleman to control the system. Of course, Bitcoin is not perfect. It has critics who argue that it's too volatile, too slow for everyday payments, or too energy intensive because of mining. And there's truth in those criticisms. Bitcoin price can wildly swing. That volatility makes it risky as a short-term investment. Its transaction speed is limited compared to newer blockchains, which is why it's not always practical for small everyday purchases. And mining does use a lot of energy, though supporters argue that much of it comes from renewable sources and that the trade-off is worth it for a truly secure decentralized money system. What's important to remember is despite all these challenges, Bitcoin has continued to grow, adopt, and remain relevant for more than 15 years. In the fast-moving world of technology, that kind of staying power is rare. So why do people keep buying Bitcoin year after year after year? Through crash and through every boom, the reasons are as varied as the people themselves. Some see it as a long-term store of value, a way to protect wealth against inflation. Some see it as a chance for life-changing gains, pointing to its history of exponential growth. Others support it for philosophical reasons, believing in a future where money is free from the government control, and plenty of people are drawn to the buzz of the headlines, the drama, watching the price soar and watching it crash. Whatever the motivation, Bitcoin continues to pull in new believers, new investors, and new conversations every single day. The story of Bitcoin is still being written in real time. From being worth pennies to being worth over $100,000 per coin. From 2 pizzas to trillions of dollars in global value. From a small experiment to the foundation of an entire industry. Bitcoin has already proven its place in history. It forced us to reimagine what money could be, and in doing so, it also changed finance forever. Whether it fulfills the boldest dreams of the supporters or not, its legacy is secure. Bitcoin is a pioneer and the leader and the symbol of the financial revolution that continues to unfold. And as long as it exists, it will remain the heartbeat of the crypto market, the coin that started it all, and the name that no one can afford to ignore. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hitting that subscribe and that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.